on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Another banger on the ice last night. Boy, what a Stanley Cup Final we are having. Will we get more fun on the hardwood tonight? We'll discuss it all as we welcome you into Money Moves. Live as always from downtown Las Vegas. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Producer Justin Emery at the controls. Same show, same place. New sponsor. This Wednesday edition of Money Moves brought to you by Poly Market. Get in on the action with a free $50 using the promo code BUZZ, B-U-Z-Z. And speaking of Buzz, JVT, we've got a lot of that around town here in Las Vegas, not only for the Stanley Cup Final, but for baseball as well right now. And you 2 days in a row have been out there watching the A's in Vegas.
Yeah, a lot of homers yet again last night.
Yeah. Not enough to go over, though.
No, actually. And that's, you talk about the adjustments. Today's total is even higher, 14.5. So would expect that maybe we're still going to get those fireworks. But if you've been playing these home run props, you've been asking around town, you can look at some of the watered down prices for these guys to hit homers today. It's nuts. But this ballpark has delivered, at least in terms of excitement. This will not be where they play when they get here in 2 years. So Don't worry about that. But everything we've talked about with this ballpark, when you talk about the offensive explosion, you sit down yesterday, you get 3 homers in the span of 2 innings or whatever it was. It was quick, and the contact is insane. Watching it in person and seeing where these balls fly balls going out to the warning track almost every single time, somewhat hyperbolic, but you get the point. This is an offensive park, and these major league hitters are destroying the baseball so far.
Well, Game 3 of that series not getting underway until around 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern later on today. We do have 2 Major League Baseball games in action, though, as we get things started here. The Rays up 1-0 in the top of the 5th against the Red Sox. Yankees up 3-1 against Cleveland. And you were talking about this pitching setup already in that first game of the day.
Yeah, Rasmussen's been cleaning up so far. Through 4 innings, he's allowed just 1 hit and has struck out 8 against the Boston Red Sox. Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, 20-1 for Rasmussen to lead the day in strikeouts. So already off to a very good start against the hapless so far Boston Red Sox. Problem is Rasmussen not getting any run support. It is a 1-0 game, so that is always going to be a problem. And in the other one, we do have the New York Yankees throwing out Carlos Rodon to take on the hefty lefty Parker Messick. Messick so far has been mortal. 3 innings, 2 earned runs, 3 walks. Yankees lead 3-1 as we come to the end of the 3rd inning. So we'll keep an eye on that one here. Messick has been awesome, as we have discussed at length. Looking a little bit more mortal, though, in recent form. Last time out, 5 2/3, 3 earned runs, got taken deep twice. And again today with the early 2 earned runs, 3 total allowed by him.
We'll preview a little bit more of the MLB card later on in the program. But for now, let's kick things off, running down everything else on deck today.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
Canada to start us out. RBC Canadian Open getting underway tomorrow from Toronto. JVT and Golf Digest Christopher Power is going to join us a little bit later on to break down the course and talk through some bets worth a look.
Yes, I always like these sort of tournaments as we're right on the precipice of another major too. So what does that mean as we're looking ahead? But the Canadian Open should be respected, and there's a lot of good names here and an interesting course and an interesting field nonetheless too, with I think some room for upper mobility, but we'll discuss that a little bit later in the program.
That's a good note, though. U.S. Open coming up next, coming off of a signature event as well. So not all of the big names, but still some good ones. Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Colin Morikawa, some great potential value on the board. Speaking of the board, let's go to the boards and the hardwood in the NBA Finals. Game 4 upon us later on today. Knicks getting bet up in the bounce back role at MSG today. We'll have Knicks reporter Steve Popper join us in hour 2. But how about the French phenom avoiding the flagrant no foul upgrade for Wembanyama on that first quarter shove to Jalen Brunson?
Surprised you didn't throw in like a sacre bleu or something like that.
I don't know enough French to try to do that.
Look, I don't think that's surprising considering where he's at with his status. Another flagrant would, of course, put him on the sidelines. So you can't do that if you're the NBA. I expect that we'll be calling this game a little bit differently for San Antonio later today, but we will see if that's the case because the Knicks have gotten away with their own physicality in this series too. So I don't want to talk about it in the impact on the total, but maybe one of those games where you see a little bit of ticky-tack foul calls throughout to just kind of calm this thing down and show them, both teams, that you can't keep doing this. But a lot of conversation about freedom of movement, about just grabbing the physicality in these postseason games. I've liked it, but I think we'll see some pushback from the officials tonight.
Deep dive preview coming up in the next segment, but we will begin our day on the ice. Carolina rocking Vegas like a hurricane. 5-3 win last night at T-Mobile Arena. Jordan Staal with a wild game-winning goal. First game of the series, not decided by a single goal, and it's because of one of the flukiest empty netters that you're going to see from behind the goal. Banks off the boards Robinson in. Series now tied at 2, so home ice shifts back to Raleigh for what is now a best of 3. And let's pull up this sound from Rod Brindamore after the game. I think we're always anxious as bettors, as fans, watching the back and forth of some of these games and how chaotic they are. How about a head coach on the bench? Here's Rod Brindamore.
Rod, I'm wondering, with another sort of crazy game, lead changes, all that, are you able to enjoy any of this, or what's the experience been like for you?
Not really. Pretty stressful. I know I need to, because this doesn't come around very often, but it's pretty stressful.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, I would say it's also pretty stressful when your guy Bussy at the beginning doesn't really look particularly great either, right? So that's also one of those too. It's like, did I make the right decision here?
What a crazy situation that was, and all that Freddie Anderson isn't even dressed, a healthy scratch for the game.
That's kind of insulting to my guy, Freddie. When I saw that it was a healthy scratch, I was like, come on, man. He deserves to at least play back up here.
Well, so it's a weird situation, though. I mean, obviously you want him to get the rest, but I've heard a lot of people asking if there's other things going on, whether it's mental or physical. Obviously, he took the big blow to the head from Ivan Barbashev, and we even had Eric Johnson on the program yesterday, and he said he thought that Frederik Andersen was injured. So, yeah, he doesn't even dress yesterday.
So, all right, maybe that's going to be it. But, look, the goaltenders have been the story throughout this series, and actually we have focused too much on Carolina. I will again ask the question after a 5-3 victory, 4 of which came courtesy or through the wickets when one Carter Hart was in net. Are we going to start to ask this question about what Vegas is doing here? Now, we can say, well, who else are you going to put in there? Hart has been terrible in this series. He's not been good.
Okay, yes. And obviously we see the stat on the broadcast last night that he is the first goaltender in Stanley Cup Final history to give up 4+ goals in the first four games of a Stanley Cup Final. But, yes, there is one. Okay. I was listening to TJ Oshie this morning on Pat McAfee. TJ Oshie, by the way, friend of the show. Maybe we'll try to get him on again next week as well.
I've never spoken to him before in my life.
Since you weren't on the day we had him on. But he was on McAfee this morning, and he blamed more of the guys in front of the net, at least for the performance in Game 3.
Oh, now we can do this, huh? Now we can talk about this. I've been talking about Freddie getting hung out to dry for a while.
Sure.
I find it odd that the collective we are going to great lengths to explain why Carter Hart is still in control of this job with no question whatsoever. And we're having these really long conversations about Freddie Andersen after that performance, considering the start of the postseason that he had.
I do not think it's with no question whatsoever. People on the outside looking in have posed the question. John Tortorella has essentially answered it by saying no. And mind you, he has a prior relationship, obviously, with Carter Hart that goes back to their time together in Philadelphia. Sure. He's been his guy since he came back from the injury. But also, yes, I understand that Adin Hill did help you win a cup in 2023, but that wasn't with John Tortorella. And what did Adin Hill show you in his limited action this regular season? Nothing good. He was 10-9-6, 3.04 goals against, an .871 save percentage. He was not any good.
Sounds exactly like the stat line of one Carter Hart in this series.
But not at
and
large.
In the Utah series, he wasn't great either.
Not at large.
He wasn't great in the Utah series either. You're doing exactly what I'm talking about.
The entire body of work, and the situation with Adin Hill, the guy that you're going to in Adin Hill is very different than the guy that you're going to in Brandon Bussy, who actually drove the bus for you in the regular season. He was essentially your primary goaltender in the regular season. It is very different. I think it's apples and oranges.
I mean, that's fair, but I think that Vegas is in a difficult spot here because, as we have talked about, coming into this series, Carolina led this postseason.
And I'm not saying Carter Hart's been good. I want to say I'm not defending him. I just understand the decision.
I mean, you look this, and maybe we're at a point. I told this to Jonathan Davis when I ran into him as he was leaving today, that the goaltender conversation should just be moot because we have talked about both of these offenses as being the top 2 teams in terms of expected goals for. They generate chances. They have high probability looks. They generate high danger looks at even strength and everywhere else. And I think that maybe this is just, hey, look, this is what the series is. Despite the fact that a lot of people thought this was going to be a low-scoring set, these 2 offenses are just so freaking good at generating these opportunities. Doesn't matter. Like, you have to now just move on and move forward. But the Hart situation is, I think, somewhat troublesome because you can only, I think, so far, like we talked with JD the other day, you can keep telling me, well, he just doesn't let the one in. Well, you're in a 2-2 series now because Carter Hart has not played particularly well and your offense has had to kind of drag him along.
Sure.
And if Bussy is maybe going to maybe even be a little bit better as the series moves forward, you're in a pretty difficult spot now if you're Vegas, obviously going back on the road, and the Hurricanes are, $1.55 favorites or so for Game 5.
Also, that Stahl goal at the end was just ridiculous. And we'll talk Conn Smythe odds a little bit later on, but that dude has gone from over 101 100-1 to 5-1 now on the odds board, which is just bonkers. But I mean, Vegas in their system needs to be better in front of the net. Period. You mentioned all of the goal scoring for this series. We're at 33 combined goals now through 4 games, which is the most in a cup final since 1981. Cash the over on the series goal total over, which was 31.5. And I can't remember if I said this on Pod to the Futures or if it was after we already got off and I was just talking to you and Mitch. But we had the discussion of, with the expectation this was going to be a long series that went 6 or 7 games, the over made sense. Did not expect it to cash through 4 games.
I was going to say, yeah, still got 2 victories left for whoever's going to win this thing. Let me ask you this. Actually, well, we can save it because it's a longer conversation. To bring this back to Bussy, just one last question for you here. Are you really confident that he is going to be, I know you, the regular season, how good he was, you still gave up 3 goals on 21 shots last night. How good are you feeling if you're Carolina? Because I thought Carolina actually played really well defensively. They weren't giving up a lot of shot opportunities for a really good while. Was it 4 shot attempts or 5 in the first period for Vegas? Like, they were really cutting off the water.
Yeah, it was not great. But I think you feel relatively comfortable either way because whoever you come back with, I think it's a little bit of a win-win, whoever you come back with in Raleigh in net. If it's Bussy again, you get somebody who is fresh and starting to try to get into a rhythm, right? Sure. Having essentially 2 full games under his belt now, given how many overtime periods that he played in the first game. But also, if Frederick Anderson sits, then you're getting him back in a game 6 situation where you're getting your guy who is fresh. So I don't think it's a bad case either way.
Little luck for Bussy, too, with that period, that goal at the end of the period that did not count. We're probably talking
2 seconds could have been a game changer.
Could be a different series.
Also, I love Vegas fans. I love that we're booing, because what are you booing at the clock? Okay, so losing at home, we saw it last night, has been a theme of both the NHL and NBA postseasons. The NBA Finals in particular, this is just the second time in NBA Finals history. Each of the first 3 games have been won by the road team. Will the Knicks buck the trend tonight? They're favored to do so. We'll discuss that and more coming back on Money Moves. We're just getting started.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Championship season is here, and VSiN Pro can help you bet it smarter for a limited time. Lock in our early bird pricing on the football season special for just $175. The sooner you sign up, the more value you get with full access to everything we do across every sport through the Super Bowl. That means NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final, World Cup, plus MLB all summer long. You also get all of your favorite show hosts and experts' daily best bets, real-time bet splits, AI-powered prop tools, 24/7 video on the VSiN Watch app, and more. Remember, June 22nd, we're releasing that NFL betting guide, so you can attack futures, win totals, division races, and more. VSiN.com/subscribe is how you can get in there now. The guide, as a part of your full-time subscription, comes absolutely free. Again, that's VSIN.com/subscribe. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Was laughing at this tweet we were sent in from Mike Zilladuke 90, which was actually a picture of another tweet from Kevin Papetti, who said, Carolina only has one goaltender who can shut down Mitch Marner. It's time to go to him. And I looked at the picture, and it's David Ayers. I don't know if you remember this story from back in 2020, where Carolina was in an e-bug situation. They needed to go to the emergency goaltender, and the emergency goalie in Toronto, Toronto, because I know that y'all are very sensitive about that. In Toronto, you don't pronounce the T. That he was the Zamboni driver for the Maple Leafs and had some other type of a role. I can't remember in its entirety, but he's 42 years old. He comes in and ends up being able to shut the door for the Carolina Hurricanes to beat the Maple Leafs. Crazy.
Hockey history.
It was one of the funner, more viral moments, I think, in the NHL in recent history. It was really fun. That said, we'll talk more Stanley Cup Final a little bit later on in the show. Let's get to the NBA Finals because we do have Game 4 upon us tonight at MSG. Spurs got a win in Game 3, made this a series, which I think is what everybody wanted, right? The NBA wanted this. We as fans and bettors wanted this, not just because I have over 5.5 games, but we're about to be in the dog days of summer. Let's get as much highly competitive, awesome games on our television screens as we can as we go here.
There's baseball.
And where you sit, yeah, but it's different, right? Like postseason baseball is different than regular season baseball. It's the same thing here. But we're seeing the Knicks get bet up. They were 1.5-point favorites last game. They opened 1.5-point favorites again here for game 4. And we're seeing that up to 2.5 now, total to 16.5 against San Antonio.
So there's a lot to do here. And initially you look at it, you're like, all right, we're like a point up from where we closed last game out. The expectation potentially is that the Knicks are going to bounce back here and get a victory over the San Antonio Spurs. Right, game 4 on your home court, zigzag, which, by the way, you're about 6 games under on the zigzag if you've been playing that. So keep that in mind if you're just blindly playing that trend here in the postseason. Speaking of being down, these home teams have not been playing well at home at all. As we've discussed, home court being worth less than 2 points, and the fact that for these two teams respectively, last 5 games of their series, the road team has won. So it would a lot would point to San Antonio, even though the basic trends maybe point to New York. But I think there's a lot that you can look at for the Knicks that it needs to improve. Mm-hmm. And I think it starts with their offense. Their offense has not been particularly great. Now, on the surface, Stormy, you look at the offensive rating for the game, 119.4 last time out. That's in the range of about the 63rd percentile, 68th percentile. That's not that bad. Right, you're above average, well above average, but their half-court offensive rating was really not that good. Whenever they played against the Spurs set defense, offensive rating was 93.3. That's good for the 46th percentile. I thought Mikal Bridges was succinct, but he put it really well for how the Knicks have to improve this as they go into Game 4.
I think our offense got to be way better. I think, we're just stagnant offensively, and not helping the next guy out. That's either on the ball or, one pass away. I think we just got to, move without the ball and be less stagnant so we can, help each other out.
Move without the ball is a really good way to put it. Mike Brown in media availability the other day talked about this, that we, the collective we, our team, just wanted to stand and watch one guy dribble a ton, that being Jalen Brunson at times, and didn't really want to move the ball. From All NBA Podcast, the Knicks direct off-ball screens. So a direct off-ball screen is when the player who receives the off-ball screen shoots, is fouled, turns the ball over, or passes to a player who shoots within one dribble. So again, off-ball screen, there's some sort of action coming off of it in a result of the play. If you looked at this last game, just 4.3 direct off-ball screens per 100 possessions. In the other playoff games, that number was 13.3. Mm-hmm. So they were stagnant. They weren't moving the ball. There was not much fluidity to the offense. That's got to change here if you're the New York Knicks. That's, I think, issue number 1 when we're talking about improving this offense, and it improves your half court as well.
So I can further that with you as well, looking at some of the assist numbers. 20 of the Knicks' 39 baskets in Game 1 were assisted. Yep. That number rose to 29 of 37 in Game 2, but in Game 3, it was just 18 of their 40 that had buckets assisted on. Yes, they shot the ball well, but they also trapped themselves into some individual offensive situations that led to turnovers. We talked about the points off turnovers as well as a part of that. Also, 9 of the Knicks' 18 assists in this past game came in the second quarter when they outscored the Spurs like crazy, and then you've got Charles Barkley at halftime saying this thing is over because they're up 7. Yeah. So, right, like that's the game that you need to get back to. And I at least bet that they will. I said yesterday at the end of the show when we were doing our best bets for the day that more than likely before the day was out, I was going to bet the Knicks minus 1.5. So I did put that in pocket today. Don't love the 2.5 as much here now, but the money line price, you can still get around minus 130 out there in the market if that's a way that you want to approach it instead of having to get the extra point in there, however you want to do it. But I do think not just because of a zigzag theory, I just think because of correctable things, the Knicks can get this done at home tonight. Yeah,
I mean, I would say so. So look to the other point. So I thought there were 2 main points. It's the offense, and then by extension, America's finals MVP, Karl-Anthony Towns, and what his performance is going to look like. I mean, look, Karl-Anthony Towns was great in the first 2 games. I don't think that it is a coincidence that he has his most quiet, his worst game of the series, and then by extension, the New York Knicks end up losing that game. If you look at this series so far, Karl-Anthony Towns, one of the things that sticks out is his lack of performance in the fourth quarter. He does not have a single point in the fourth quarter in this series. He is 0 for 6 from the floor in the fourth quarter, and that's got to be part of this too. And Kat talked about this yesterday as well, about getting more involved when it comes to the fourth quarter.
I think it's a combination. We have a game plan and we want to execute it. So just trying to execute our game plan, especially when we get in the fourth, is vital, and just doing what I can to execute it at the highest level.
That last part to me is the most the integral part of this quote here. What I can do. Do you know how many times it was driving me nuts? You watch that game in Game 3, and Kat would force the issue, get a smaller guy on him, whether it was Champagnie or whether he's even Harper, And then he would just kind of like, yeah, all right, just float out to the perimeter and not really do anything or stand in the corner. No, you've got to use your big body, get in his grill, and demand the ball so that you can work off of that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to a basket, but if you have a Harper on you and you're in his chest and you're in the post, if they bring a double over, that means you can swing the ball around. That means ball movement like we just talked about. That means open shots for your offense, which was stagnant in the half court. So much of this I do think stems from Karl-Anthony Towns. So if you're in your boat, if you think that the Knicks are going to be able to pull this off today, it leads to, I think, a strong Karl-Anthony Towns performance. Whether that's over points, 17.5 at minus 114, if you wanted to go with the points and rebounds, whatever it is, if they're going to win this game, I know a lot of people want to point to Brunson, but if Karl-Anthony Towns can force those mismatches, force that ball moving, and get that blender moving, then all of a sudden, this Knicks team is going to be a lot better. And it goes back to why I thought he could be the most valuable player. They're not doing this unless he is an effective player.
I was a little sad that after the 8 rebound performance, that we didn't get a little bit of a drop in the rebounds prop number. I thought it might go back down to 10.5, but still at the 11.5, unfortunately. Although, I mean, it's a number that he went over in the first 2 games of this series, albeit. And you mentioned the MVP angle on this with the NBA Finals. He is still 5-1. We talked about this yesterday. This is probably, especially if you think he's going to have another good game tonight, a great buy low point and opportunity on Karl-Anthony Towns. Again, 5-1 on the odds board. If you're somebody who likes to look at some of the like poly market and trade markets, 14% right now. Third behind Jalen Brunson and Victor Wembanyama as he is on the odds board. But a reminder too, Polymarket, if you're interested, lets you cash out before the final buzzer. So unlike a traditional sports book, when you're locked into a game until it ends, you're in control of your position the entire time. You can get started with a free $50 using promo code BUZZ at Polymarket today. BUZZ. Trading not available in all jurisdictions. You got to check your local regulations before trading. Restrictions and eligibility requirements do apply there. But worth noting as you're looking into some of this stuff, really, really interesting. Any other angles that you have for tonight? Last 90 seconds before we got to hit the break.
Yeah, we can hit some player props a little bit later too, but I do think one of the other the intricacies, the adjustments that might happen here is to loosen up the paint a little bit more. I know that Josh Hart made them pay a couple of times on some open threes in the early going of that game. But I do wonder if we start to get a bigger role for Landry Shamet in this series, and that it might be worth looking at Landry Shamet, whether it's points for Shamet, which right now is set at 7.5, or if you want to go with 3-pointers made over 1.5 minus 136. That lineup with Shamet in there in place of Josh Hart changes everything, because then you can't but you can't play Wembanyama off of a Josh Hart and clog up the paint. You've got to spread out then. You've got to respect almost everybody along the perimeter. I mean, pretty much everybody along the perimeter. And that really does open up the floor for New York. So I do wonder if Mike Brown, talking about adjustments and what you're going to do and how you're going to change, if that means that Landry Shamet's going to have a bigger role tonight and he can hit 2 threes or go over 7.5 points tonight.
I think we're going to have a fun one tonight.
I mean, they've all been pretty fun. I was thinking about this during the game when the Knicks were up. And I was like, you know what? Even if they sweep them, because when they were up at the time, I was like, this is still like a really good series. This has been a lot of fun. Down to the wire, yeah. As Mitch asked the other day, we talked about it on the pod the other day. Can you remember the last time we've had concurrently 2 like series like this, the Stanley Cup Final and the NBA Finals, that have been this good together? Yeah. It's been great.
It's a great point. Unbelievable. We'll have more on the NBA Finals as we go. We're also going to be joined in hour 2 by Steve Popper, covers the Knicks each and every day, is one of their beat writers. We do need to step aside and take a quick break. When we come back, let's dive into a little MLB. We got a big card today. Stick around. More money moves after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Rasmussen out to 9 Ks now as the Rays are up 4-0 over the Boston Red Sox. We're tied at 3, by the way, out there in Cleveland between the Yankees and Guardians as we get set for the bottom of the 5th inning. Back here on Money Moves, brought to you by Polymarket. Get in on the action with a free $50 using the promo code BUZZ. That's B-U-Z-Z. Stormy Buonantony. Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Let's dive into a little bit of the baseball. I know we've got plenty of games to get into for today, but before we look forward, let's look back a little bit. Not great to see Ronald Acuna Jr. going down again.
That's what I wanted to throw this in there. Obviously, Ronald Acuna Jr., a vital player for the Atlanta Braves, and we know how good he can be, but you have a connection to the Atlanta Braves, so I was wondering how this news went over in the Buonantony household.
Shockingly, it has not been brought up yet. I don't know how.
All right.
Especially because we've been using your MLB login every day to watch it.
You guys, Chris told me the other day, as you guys have been very plugged into the MLB. I forgot I even gave that to you, so yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Now I know your passwords for everything.
Not true, but although I will say, but you know my pattern for my passwords. I'll put it that way. Because I could
go Oz the Mentalist on you to figure out everything else. Yeah, that's how you say it. It's not Oz.
It's not Oz?
Swear to G.
Hold on.
Google it.
I don't.
Pull up a YouTube video. It's Oz.
Okay, I'll have to look this up. Are we having a blowers moment?
Except where you were so confident that you're right. I am so confident I'm right.
Interesting. All right. Well, I don't want to be distracted too much here. But, look, the Braves are cruising. You want to get him healthy. But I think the problem is that it's worth pointing out because Acuna's having a decent season, hitting 250. He's got 7 homers, 22 ribs. He's stolen 15 bases. But the problem is it's the hamstring that he's already injured this year. So that is, I think, the worrisome sign about this. Not only do you not want another soft tissue injury, but the fact that it's to the same part of the body is always a little bit troublesome. So worth pointing that out as he leaves Tuesday's loss to the White Sox, and we'll see what the Braves want to do as we move forward.
And just in general, for a team that's dealt with so many injuries for the last few years, him among them, obviously, and how well they have started this season, you don't want to go through that. Also wanted to bring up from yesterday, Paul Skeens deserved better. What a brutal situation for anyone who missed it yesterday against the Dodgers. He has 7 strikeouts, 2 runs allowed on 6 hits, goes the full 6 innings, which is something he hasn't done in a little while because he's had some own struggles. So he leaves the game tied at 2. Then things get ugly immediately. Dodgers put up a 10 spot in the 7th.
They do. And what did we talk about yesterday? That the underlying metrics for Skeens in the previous, 4 starts where he had been kind of scuffling a bit, had showed that, hey, probably deserves a little bit better. He's been pitching a little bit better. The contact numbers haven't been there. The swing and miss stuff has been there. And sure enough, he bounces back nicely. And much like great players do, probably when you step up in competition, when you're playing a team like the Dodgers, you probably get a little bit more amped up. And he was great. But it also speaks to like how I like to, when you look at these, the way you bet these games, as much as I like to handicap these starting pitchers, that's why I like to bet some first fives and whatnot, just to keep the randomness of the bullpen out of that game. Because as you mentioned, you deserved a little bit of a better fade. He leaves with that, or you come out of the 5th, I should say, with a 2-1 lead, and then a 10 spot in the top of the 7th destroys everything for you.
Brutal. 12-3 final. They're back at it again today in Pittsburgh, but it's Shohei Ohtani day on the other side now for Los Angeles. The Dodgers out to $2 favorites now. Jared Jones on the hill for the Pirates, plus 164. Run total in this one, 8.5. Slight juice on the over, but nothing crazy.
It's just wild to look at this. I mean, he is obviously deserving of it. Ohtani's been absolutely unreal. About a $2 favorite here when you look at it. And on the other side, I mean, Jared Jones, what do you do? Do you want to try to make the case for Jones? At the beginning, when he first came out, I think there were some really good signs that Jones is going to be pretty solid. But since his return here in 2026, it has not gone particularly well. 9 1/3 over the 2 starts we have seen from him. Command's been a little bit of an issue, but the strikeouts really haven't been there for him either. And the big one is he cannot keep the ball down, giving up nearly 2 home runs every 9 innings pitched. He has had a really big problem on the early going, 15.4% home run to fly ball ratio. And then you look at the advanced metrics, painting a similar picture here. 5.78 ERA, 5.03 fielding independent. Seems almost too easy. But doesn't it seem tempting to kind of come in and look at the Dodgers from a run line perspective? Because Ohtani, the way that he has been pitching, the up and down nature at times of this bullpen, the way that Jones has been pitching as well, seems very hard to believe that you're going out there and not coming out with a multi-run victory. Got to lay $1.26 though, or thereabouts for that -1.5.
I think, I'd be more apt to do it than not, to be honest with you, just based on everything you just laid out so well. Also worth noting, last 4 starts for Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers covered the run line easily in those. We talked a little bit already about the A's, and we're on game 3 tonight of what is a 6-game homestand, but yes, 3rd game of the series with the Milwaukee Brewers. Jack Perkins going for the A's today, Brandon Sproat on the other side. It's a pick'em game, but all of the hubbub and conversation is about this total. Game 1 of the series was 11, soars over with 29 total runs, and it did go to 12 innings in that one. Yesterday we see 12 runs scored, but
it's not like it was 2-2 though going into the
Correct. Yesterday though, the total was 13. We get 12 runs scored, so still a very high scoring affair. Look at this on your screen. 14.5 JVT, and get this, -120 on the over.
Yep. Well, here's the thing. First off, a little bit warmer today, high of 105. So that's going to impact the way you're playing. You're playing a little bit earlier as well, 6 p.m. first pitch as opposed to 7. So when I was out there at the ballpark yesterday, it was actually quite cool by the time the game started, in comparison to summer weather. It was quite cool. I mean, to give you an idea, I was in the button down that I was wearing yesterday in jeans, and I felt nice sitting outside. So it wasn't really too bad, but it's going to be a lot hotter today. Wind doesn't seem to be as bad, but the whole point here being it doesn't matter. That ballpark, again, with those jet streams and the way that it's built, it's going to accentuate any fly ball that is hit out there. And then you look at the pitching matchup, and Sproat is not exactly a full-on ground ball guy. He's got a 1-to-1 in terms of ground ball to fly ball ratio. You look at the other side here, and Perkins will allow some fly balls, so that's always a problem. What did we talk about in the first matchup, right? We had a duel of 2 fly ball pitchers, and those dudes got.
Yeah.
And so now here, you get Perkins coming out there with a 0.97 ground ball to fly ball ratio, so maybe he's going to have a little bit of an issue. And it's also just look, man, do you just want to fight against this at this point, considering how much these balls are flying out? Like you said, you didn't get over the total, but you still got all of those home runs. And so if you're going to start to get some guys on base, because that was, I think, part of the issue in the first game, too, that was undercovered by us and many. It was, we got all excited about the home runs and the scoring. Guys were getting on base because of errors, because of issues, and then you started giving up home runs, and that's what drove up that run count. So if you get a few more guys on, I think that's going to be a small problem for this. And I would not say, to put it this way, I don't want to bet under 14.5.
Okay. Yeah. It's a stay away for me at that number. But maybe this is one of those things where the number doesn't adjust too crazy early on when they are scoring and you want to buy in on an over or something like that then, or you just play it by ear.
To give us some kudos, what the angle we brought up yesterday was potentially instead of the game over was the A's team total over, right? Because you thought that maybe they would have a little bit of success. Just barely got there with 7 runs yesterday against Gasser and the Brewers, and Gasser was responsible for 6 of the 7 that were given up.
Also, Phillies and Blue Jays today. Jesus Luzardo going for Philly on the road. Max Scherzer, after dealing with the forearm, through a bullpen session Sunday, felt like he would be able to go by Wednesday, and he is, it appears. Plus 109 dogs, though, at home in this spot. Phillies minus 131, run total at the flat 9, juice to the under, though, minus 120.
Yeah, I just think you're curious as to seeing Max Scherzer, right? That's what are we going to get out of him? Because in the 5 starts we have seen from him all the way back to April, it has not really been, not been great. And the underlying metrics don't really paint a good picture of it, but, it's been some time off, recovered, so potentially going to come out there and give him a shot, but I can't really buy into that fact. And Luzardo out there, the reason why I want to bring this up is not only because Scherzer and the fact that he has not pitched well, but if you really buy into some of the metrics, Luzardo has deserved a little bit better here. 343 batting average on balls in play. The expected numbers for him, despite the 4.56 ERA, you've got a 3.48 expected ERA, a 3.40 fielding independent. So a near full run difference between the 2 points that we're talking about here, that if you get a little bit luckier on your balls in play, you're not giving up a ton of hard contact either. I mean, you look at the numbers for Luzardo, less than a 30% hard hit rate, a barrel rate that's floating around 6%. I think that he could probably go out there and give him a pretty good shot. And if water finds its level with his pitching, $1.30 for the Phillies against a Scherzer who has not pitched particularly well. Doesn't seem like too much of a price to go in there and try to swallow here if you're a better trying to get in and bet on the Phillies against the Blue Jays tonight. Last
90 seconds. I know you also had eyes on Cardinals Mets today. What stood out to you there?
Well, because the Cardinals are actually playing really good baseball, and I'm surprised. I thought that this was going to be a Cardinals team that was going to fall by the wayside, but Stormy, they've won 5 straight. They're only 4.5 games back in the Central, and they continue to surprise, or at least me. I can't remember who I was talking with the other day, but the whole point here being was that they brought up, look, man, maybe there's just a bunch of youngish guys that are kind of coming up at the right time, and they're all hitting their stride right when it needs to. Palante's going to get the start against Warren. Palante, you could argue, is probably getting away with some nonsense. 277 batting average on balls in play, has some small command issues, and a 441 FIP. So we'll see if maybe the streak gets snapped tonight. I would lean toward the Mets, but Cardinals, man, they're playing really good baseball.
Yeah, they are. Also, as we go here, same score right now as we opened the block with at the end, tied at 3 in Yankees Guardians, although Cleveland now minus 130, home favorites on the live line, live total sitting 9.5, highly juiced to the under minus 155. The live line in Tampa, Obviously, with the 4-0 lead here for the Rays, it's like minus 10,000. But your run total in the 6th inning, 5.5. So do with that what you will. We got to step aside here. When we come back, Christopher Powers is going to join the program of Golf Digest. We got the RBC Canadian Open getting underway tomorrow. What are some of the best angles to play it? Does course history come into effect here? We'll discuss it all when we return on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
The sports calendar never stops, and the Sharp Plays is covering it all, winning for 15 straight years. All of it documented, logs posted publicly at sharpplays.com. That kind of transparency we know can be rare in this industry. When the Sharp Plays move, sportsbooks take notice. Using advanced AI, trusted insider intel, and finding the value before numbers shift. Start winning with them today at sharpplays.com. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. RBC Canadian Open set to get underway tomorrow from Toronto, and Golf Digest Christopher Powers, kind enough to join us here on the Progressive Guest Line, help us break it all down. We were talking a little bit earlier with a signature event last week, U.S. Open upon us. This isn't the completely star-studded field, but still some really good and interesting names coming into this weekend. You excited?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love and I think the players are starting to love this too. A nice National Open, Canadian Open. Obviously, we got the U.S. Open next week, Scottish Open coming up, British Open. So it's kind of the meat of the schedule here coming in for bettors, for fans, and for the actual golfers themselves.
All right, what kind of a course are we looking at here, and what kind of a golfer do we want for this course?
Yeah, this is TPC Toronto. It's actually only the second year the RBC Canadian Open has been held here. It was held here a year ago, and it seems that guys who can absolutely mash the golf ball off the tee with their driver and kind of hit it anywhere fare pretty well here. Ryan Fox here won here a year ago. He hits it very long. Cameron Champ was playing well here a year ago. That's a guy who basically only plays well at courses you can hit driver anywhere. So that tells me something about this golf course. Now, Sam Burns did contend here last year, too. He's a little bit sharper with his driver, a nice iron player, and a great putter. You're going to have to make a ton of putts this week. So Sam Burns, that's probably why he's 15-1 coming off the really nice finish at the Memorial Tournament.
You and the crew have an article up at Golf Digest right now, and you do not bury the lead because in the headline says Wyndham Clark should be on everybody's betting card. Can you lay out why?
I mean, just an unbelievable last two starts for Wyndham Clark. After not a great start at the PGA, I believe I saw Keith Stewart write that he's gained an average of 16 strokes on the field in these last two starts. That's out of control. And obviously he got really hot with the putter at Byron Nelson, but he hit all his other clubs well too. And he proved that at Memorial. That's such a demanding test off the tee, Muirfield Village, a demanding test into the greens on the second shots. He gained a ton of strokes with his irons. He's kind of got that confidence back, that swagger that helped him win a U.S. Open, got him to the Olympics, made him one of like the best players in the world. He fell off a little bit. He seems to be all the way back just in time for the U.S. Open next week, and that's why he's back amongst the favorites this week.
Tommy Fleetwood's at the top of this odds boards over at DraftKings. Is that a fitting spot for him?
Yes. I mean, I know it's crazy. I know he won the Tour Championship, but it still feels like he hasn't actually won a real PGA Tour event. The Tour Championship's 30 guys. It's kind of a weird format. It was nice for him to get over that hump, but I think some people, especially hardo golf fans, still think he needs to get over an actual win hump. He might do it this week. I kind of like him more next week at Shinnecock, where he almost won back in 2018. But he's a fitting favorite. He's hitting it really well right now, and he's played well in this tournament, albeit at different courses in the past few years.
I will just add that, so I think a lot of people in golf have this, Chris, potentially they're white whales, as I call them. For a while, for me, it was Hideki Matsuyama before he finally won the Masters, and I would bet him every single major. Ever since Shinnecock, I had Tommy Fleetwood, and he has been my white whale. I've been chasing it, so I feel like, could he be looking ahead to it? Because like you said, didn't he sort of set a course record at one point, like on a Saturday, that U.S. Open?
It was the final round. He shot 7 under. It was a ridiculous round. And he hit it to about 4 feet on the 18th hole, missed the putt on the low side. Had he made it, he would have found himself in a playoff with Brooks Koepka at the end of the day. But obviously the script writers had a different ending that week.
Another guy among the favorites on the odds board, actually same price right now as Wyndham Clark, is Colin Morikawa, but I know a lot of people have been kind of fading him this week since he's been dealing with the injury. Is he just using this week as a tester for the U.S. Open coming up? Are you in that mindset as well? How should we be approaching Morikawa?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to try and see where his body is. After the weird back injury at the Players, he actually played unbelievably well, kind of shockingly at the Masters, and then again at the RBC Heritage. But both of those weeks, when the cameras cut to him, you could tell he was still favoring his back. That has seemed to have caught up with him in the last two starts. I think he finished T62 in a no-cut event at Doral. Not a good start at the PGA Championship. Those are the only two events, I believe, since the RBC Heritage. So it's clearly still ailing him. We'll see where he's at this week. We'll reassess next week. I wouldn't go near him this week.
I know we want some outrights and some of the juicy ones, but looking at the article, you've done well in your matchup so far this year. So what are we doing with the matchup for this weekend?
My matchup this week, what did I put in there? I actually like a lot. Oh, Keith Mitchell over Aaron Rai. I know Aaron Rai is obviously a hot golfer right now, a major champion. But like I said, you got to hit it long. You can kind of wail away with the driver here. That's not his style. We saw him at Aronimink kind of just pick the place apart, hit it 290 yards like he does off the tee, and let his irons do the talking, kind of a more strategy mindset. This week, you can wail away off the tee. That's what Keith Mitchell does. Keith Mitchell, like a lot of guys, is coming off just qualifying for the U.S. Open on Monday, golf's longest day, 36 holes. He did that, I believe, down in Georgia somewhere. So he's playing well right now. He's got some momentum. He hits the ball a long way. This course should accentuate his strengths. Again, I know how well Aaron Rai's playing. I just like the course fit better for Keith Mitchell, who's also playing pretty well right now.
Golf Digest senior writer Christopher Powers joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, talking all things RBC Heritage. Okay, let's go through a couple of the names that you really think can contend. And do you have a long shot for us today?
Absolutely. I'm going to start with Alex Fitzpatrick. I guess that's a middle tier type of long shot who he's almost triple the odds of his brother. And I think he's been the better golfer than his brother, at least over the last 3 months. I know Matt Fitzpatrick has a win as well this year. They won together, obviously, at the Zurich. And the conversation after that, when Alex got his tour card, was, is that kind of unfair to other guys working really hard to get their tour card? Should a guy just be able to play with his brother? That was a conversation from a bunch of idiots, because Alex Fitzpatrick is a top 50 player in the world, at least according to Data Golf. I know he's 73rd in the world ranking. Data Golf's got him 42nd, and for good reason. He's got some unbelievable finishes. He won on the DP World Tour before the Zurich Classic. All he's done since earning his tour card is finish T9 and 4th and T6 in 3 signature events. Now he comes to a place where he can make a ton of birdies. I think he's just got a lot of momentum going right now. I think he gets his first win this week. And if he doesn't, some long shots I like. Aldrich Potgieter, he's a guy who driver-heavy golf courses where you got to make a ton of birdies. That's where he kind of thrives. And he's down here at 80, 82 to 1, I believe I got him at. And then another guy in that similar range is Max Greiserman, who also likes to wail away with the driver. Another guy coming off just qualifying for the U.S. Open in New York, short trip to Canada, a lot of momentum. So I like the guys coming off that golf's longest day. They played really well, and then they come up to Canada, and now they can kind of just wail away with impunity with the driver. Greiserman and Potgieter, my 2 long shots.
All right, let's talk about some guys that maybe your opinion differs than others. Are there some golfers that you've heard bandied about amongst your friends or whatever it is that you don't necessarily agree with, or maybe you would outright look to play against? Yeah,
definitely Morikawa, as I mentioned. Who else? Bob Max here at 30 to 1 just has not been the same player as we thought he was. He had a bunch of great finishes in the majors a year ago, great finish at the Players. I think everyone thought, man, he might finally break through here, and he's kind of fallen apart since that Players Championship. So I'd go against Bob Mack. A guy I actually like that people might be playing against because of his irons is Justin Rose. I remember being on the show telling you guys about the McLaren iron switch and kind of being down on Justin Rose. He seems to have figured it out recently, so I might be on Justin Rose this week. And then Brooks Koepka is still being priced amongst the favorites. The putter just will not cooperate. So I think until it does, you can keep betting against him and probably winning in matchups.
You're the man, Christopher. Enjoy all the action this weekend. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Christopher Powers, everybody. Again, great article up right now with all the expert picks at Golf Digest. You can follow him on X as well at CPowers14. Okay, still so much more to come on Money Moves throughout the rest of the day. We got to talk NHL Stanley Cup Final. We've got to talk a little NFL action with all of the OTAs and mandatory minicamp. And of course, Game 4 of the NBA Finals upon us tonight. If you are looking to make money, I know you are, you're listening to this show. Did you know that Polymarket lets you cash out before the final buzzer? Unlike traditional sports books where you're locked into the game until it ends, you're in control of your position the entire time, and you can get started with a free $50 today using the promo code BUZZ at Polymarket, BUZZ. Trading not available in all jurisdictions. Check your local regulations before trading. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. I am so pumped for Game 4 tonight.
Are you really?
Yes, I've been jacked up about this series.
We're going to go watch some hoops then? What are we doing?
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything. But do you want to hang out with me 2 days in a row? This is an ongoing battle with us. I feel like you spend too much time with me, and then we get to the show and you are like, why did I do this to myself?
Now I hang out with your husband too.
Oh God, there's a lot going on. We got to step aside. We're kicking off hour 2 of Money Moves coming up after this. Don't go anywhere. We're having a blast today.